So here we go, managing well-being. Okay, so almost like an oxymoron because nobody can really do it anymore. I think after 3 years of COVID, everyone's wondering what is well-being. So we're going to stop there first. We're going to go, what is it? There's a lot of definitions, and I think they're very ancient too, some of them. So I'm just going to touch on them and give you some ideas what other people have said it should be, whether they think it is. And well-being is usually robbed by stress. So let's just stop into that scientific model very quickly. But it's all in service of maintaining the whole. And by the whole, I mean the whole human being. People use the word holistic, whichever word works for you, but it is about thinking about your whole self and the environment and the people you're with. Okay, so we're going to look at how can you get some self-care practices going on. I've got simple ones, complicated ones, and we'll try on a somatic practice, which is what we're doing with our body and keeping track of it. I'm just going to remind you of all the good stuff about health and nutrition, just like your grandma might. Sorry about that. But then I'm going to challenge you. What paradigm shift could you put in your life? Even if you only did one thing, it actually makes a big difference. So let's see where we go today. Yeah. So what I'm going to ask you to do while I'm talking at first and giving you all the boring didactic stuff, maybe download one of these apps. Okay. One of them is the stress guide, HRV and meditation. And the other one is the stress scan. Either one of them are good. We'll look at both of them. And then we'll go through and check. They're very easy ways, and you could start playing with it, sign up for your account, whichever you want. But that's a stress scan or a stress guide. You will find a lot of these on in your apps. I just did a quick search before, and it was hard to find them. So yeah, look for these. You can take a little screenshot if you need to, and then we'll go forward. Has everybody got that? Everybody got a picture? Good. All right, then. So when we're starting out, actually, we have some great guys talked about this a long time before we ever started thinking about it. And Aristotle, the guy there on the right, as I'm looking at it, 3rd century BC, a student of Plato there, he said there's something called eudaimonia that we actually need to be aiming for. Yeah, Plato said, no, it's in the afterlife. You do all the good stuff here and something good will come. And Aristotle said, no, it's kind of here with us right now in our bodies. What we do now is what matters. This is what the human beings are supposed to be paying attention to. And sort of that general description, a state in which one is aware of feeling contented and happy and healthy and prosperous according to their needs and desires. So there's a lot in this statement, and we'll unpack it a little bit later, but just focus on contented, because that is actually that sort of homeostatic place where we mostly aim to be. Yeah. Now, a guy around the same time, a very good friend of his, Aristippus, said that it's more about hedonistic stuff. We should really just capture everything that happens in the moment and not really worry about where it takes us. Just get that subjective pleasure. And if anything is negative, maybe just avoid it. Now, I love that. Isn't that just the life of a philosopher? Don't think about it. Just enjoy. Great. Why are we here? Enjoying. Well, he's not completely wrong. We actually do need to do that sometimes. Yeah. So fast forward to the last century, we have Professor Ed Diener, the late Professor Ed Diener. He brought up subjective well-being, and he said something that was between the two of them. He said it's what we think it is. If we can tell each other, ourselves, that actually I'm pretty okay, it's probably the best truth. And he was the first guy shifting our sort of questionnaires and how we dig into this stuff and saying actually it's not objective on the outside, measuring it by wealth and have we got 2.5 children or whatever it is. He said, let's just ask the people. It was, believe it or not, remarkably, science moving. And so later on, Dr. Marty Seligman, I think we all know him for studying learned helplessness, that place where you learn that you can't win. Okay, ironically said, I'm tired of doing this. Let's just go back into that eudaimonic. Let's just try and get things content and balanced in life conversation. And then he wrote about flourishing. When enough things are balanced in your life, you're going to find that you have something that just melds together and feels good. And he brought together the Perma Model, where we think about all the positive emotions, all of our relationships that we have, our meaning in life, our achievements, and how we're getting on with things, and tried to find it in balance. There's a lot of other theories following on from that now, but it's not a bad one to follow. Now, we know when we go into deeper research, there's trying to boil it down to 6 factors. Riff and Sorensen did a great job at this, and they're not wrong either. So these are very much about the Psychological well-being has got to have positive relations with other people. So we have Seligman said the same thing, that we've got to be on. We have to have a sense of purpose in life. There's something that we feel very good about, and that gives us self-acceptance. And as long as we accept ourselves, we're more likely to have personal growth. And in that, we develop that sense of autonomy and also agency. And then a nice little spelling error there, and environmental, but yeah, that environmental mastery, that we're pretty good at what we're doing, and we know that we're getting on with things. Yeah, and the World Health Organization went to that bigger thing, complete. That word it jars with me, because I don't think I've ever felt complete, much less physically, mentally, and socially. But we have to think what the latter part of that sentence is not just the absence of something. Okay, which is what most of us think. Well, I'm not falling down yet, so it must be okay, which is what we've had to all do for the last 3 years. But we've got to move into a new one. And basically, this is understanding how stress comes into our life, and how are we not managing it? Because this is the source, the thing that robs us of most of these. That mental, social, and physical well-being is pretty much about managing stress. So going into that, and looking at what happens. This is just a little map of the brain to put us in, and remember that it's just, little 3¼ pounds of neurons in there, driving a lot of stuff, both good and bad. And there's a lot of complex areas that are in there, but they're interrelated. We don't have any choice, and they all rely on each other. And if one area is not doing so well, it affects all of the others. So this interrelationship is more well explained by the connectome theory, that we've got lots of different ways of looking at the human brain and how it drives us. Yeah, it is sitting on top of us. And there's always the joke. I used to think the brain was the best thing on the planet, and then I remembered who was telling me that. So we do have to think it's got a lot of connection for us, but it's not the only thing going on. So what we have to remember as well is that vagus nerve, the one there in the pictures up top, going all the way down into the body, has a lot to answer for in terms of keeping us alert or calmed down. And that's one of the bits we'll show later. But we also have to remember that men and women have very different ways of approaching the world, and we can measure it in some ways. Now, this is a connectome measurement, just looking at the neural mapping, and we can see that women tend to be in that frontal brain area. Men seem to be on the halves, and then going back and forth, and a little bit more concrete thinking way. But this also says, how do we solve problems? And when we have colleagues or partners or teenagers that we're working with, that we have to remember there are differences in the way that they might understand things. So managing stress is also about understanding others. It's not just about what's going on inside our body, but it's about understanding what might be happening in the other human too. Yeah, so we've got to remember the male and female and developmental. You're all teaching young people, and their ability to control some of that stress and have a good life and think about things and master their calmness, which will directly affect yours, is slowly developing over time. And if we look at the front of the brain, that's the portion that's closer to the 5 years, when we're looking at the ones on the bottom that look like a walnut. On the top, you can see this little purple butterfly emerging. That is our motor sensory area. And that says that one was developing first, because the blue says it's myelinated, which says it's so important it put a nice little layer of fat around it, like an electric cord, to keep it safe. And you can also see those 2 little points at the back that are blue at the back of the walnut, at the bottom rather, that's the visual cortex. So those were going first. But you can see that whole front area, red and yellow and orange at the front, for a 5-year-old isn't well connected. It doesn't actually completely connect until about 27. So we have to remember that we're still all in development until that time. And so dealing with those brains that are developing at different speeds also affects how well we can manage our stress, because we're picking up that of the other people. Now, it's all down to just these simple neuropeptides and other things that are in our brain, but all of our neurochemicals going around just try and do one thing, and that's that center area, the mood and cognitive function. That is contentment. And all of these things back in balance. When we're enjoying enough things, we're dipping into that appetite. We're dealing with our obsessions if we have them, managing anxiety, staying alert, managing our attention, and making sure that we're motivated and getting rewarded. This is a really, really heady mix. And as I said, it's just 3¼ pounds on average, managing all of this, and it's communicating with our body as well. Yeah. So all of these different chemical signatures give us different areas of our brain firing off. And it's really simply too much or too little. So how do we get the balance back if we can't see it and we can't control it? And it just happens at us, on us, and to us? Well, we have to remember that we're getting triggered all day long. We can have disagreements with colleagues, with partners. We might not be agreeing with other people. We might have just been given a task that's too big for us. We might also be under duress by colleagues, or we can watch kids getting bullied by others. It's enough to trigger our stress hormones, okay? Even that vicarious stuff, we actually do not clock effectively how much it affects us. And then all you need is stress at work, performance management, all that, boom. You have a very, very heady, soupy mix of chemicals that were designed to fight or flight, but not to sit in a room, right? So, and this is it. It goes on and on and on. And for the end, most part, we have two strategies, the fight or the flight. Now, some people very much have the freeze, but few do when we're in schools because you couldn't afford to do that for very long. Kids would take over. Yeah. So, but the effects on the body are very, very real. We have to remember that our increased heart rate is doing something very different to our body that it wasn't really intended to do. And that chemical cascade goes down. It affects our immune system. It gives our tummy a problem. We don't really feel connected to other people. And we can get irritability, depression. Again, those are the neurochemicals interacting with the hormones. And this is, you know, at the end of the day, it's just a system that was designed to save us from a long, long time ago. It's ancient and it has one directive: save the being. So a lot of times when it's giving out those stress hormones, it thinks it's helping you. It's being your best friend. It's just protecting you. And this guy can override it a lot of times. We can say, nope, I'm still fine. I need to keep going at work. But our body doesn't understand that. We keep getting the chemicals and it can't stop. Okay. So eventually all these chemicals, too much, too little, whichever way it's going, just lead us to no thinking. Because the other thing that happens when we're stressed, angry, excited even sometimes, is prefrontal cortex, that front bit of your brain that helps you think and have emotion control and plan and coordinate and stay on task and have flexibility switches off, okay? And as long as those hormones and other chemicals are swimming around, it stays less effective, okay? So this is for your students and for you and for anyone else you're working with. So how do we do that? As I said, it's not just about this guy who's telling us this information. We have to use the whole body. And it doesn't happen overnight. Okay, we grow bigger, you know, over a long time, and it takes a long time to get here. So we have to remember that if we're in one place where we don't feel good, it takes a bit of effort to change it. Our brain is really good at making loops and making things easy for us. I know whether I like broccoli or not. I don't think about it every time. But that also makes it hard to make change. Right? So when we've got stressors every day, I've got people yelling at me, they need stuff. I have to now remember to be social media savvy, lots of other things. My list is never ending of things I have to do. That's it. I go into dopamine deficiency. And dopamine is our nice little pathway that gives us motivation and reward. So the effect of stressing it out and not paying attention is that our hands, our body change. Yeah. Our ability to control that impulsivity, that prefrontal cortex, which would do that for us, decreases. Oh, hi there. That we have more difficulty focusing. And eventually our body, if it has too much of these chemicals and too much dopamine deficiency, we actually get shakes, believe it or not. So we got to look for the physiological signs. But if it is those, we're pretty far down that chemical cascade. So we need to take better care immediately. And it's not overnight. Yeah. We also know that our performance goes down. So even stuff that we do every day, we lose the motivation to do it with integrity. And we end up making simple mistakes, right? Really obvious ones. Now, the other part is that anxiety. We're staying hyper alert and we can't stop thinking about work. We have all kinds of other things on the back. Panic attacks come in. We get too many chemicals again. We then can't start stuff. We can't finish it. Super avoidance of everything. And basically, we know what happens when we try and do everything at once. We end up not doing anything well, and we certainly don't enjoy it. I mean, I can't think of anything better than holding a handful of kittens, but oh my gosh, it's dysfunctional. You can't hold all the good stuff. And this is what most people think well-being is. I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to do my yoga class and then I'm going to take care of myself and I'm going to eat well and I'm gonna. And then people make an impossible schedule. And, it is too much of a good thing isn't necessarily it either. A little and often usually does a better job, right? But we have to be able to recognize, when have we done too much? Disturbed sleep, does eating habits change? Maybe it looks like concentration, just brain fog or something. We're actually not getting up and taking breaks, just taking a 5-minute walk around the block. We might even be able to find our other kids annoying. Okay, we really couldn't care if they are doing their work anymore, or our colleagues or our partners. We also just kind of lose track of that conversation. We're bored. We might even start self-medicating. And sometimes that can show up, if you have a headache, taking too many pain medications. It also might show up as alcohol. Okay, we have lots of other ways that we self-medicate because it feels like it'll do the right thing. Or the worst, taking something to help you sleep. And it doesn't really get there and you wake up groggy, and this just cycles on, and our body cannot recover. So eventually it shuts us down. Okay. And these are the signs before you get there, but you really have to remember that if your body can't get what it needs, we only have 5 basic drives. And the first one is sleep. If we don't get sleep, our body shuts us down. If we don't get enough liquid, our body shuts us down. And then there's food and others, and I'll go into it later. But our body's pretty good at eventually taking good care of us, right? So the biggest things we have to think of, how do we manage time? Okay. How do we manage our needs, real needs, not just the stuff that you think you need, like oxygen, and sleep. And then that bigger piece of life, am I doing what I want to do? Yeah, so these are big questions, but I've only left 3 on there for a very good reason, because there's so much. And most people can't answer these questions. Yeah. Or if they can, they might be micromanaging another stressor. Yeah. But this is the end result. We think we're relaxing when we take time off. But what we're doing is doing a recovery job because we've overextended ourselves and we're unable to think past that point. And we forget, well, I've got that breathing thing, but I don't have enough energy to do it. I've got that app I could use, but we stop thinking about it. And eventually it just goes into a long list of things, meditation, other things I give people regularly. And they said, yeah, I tried it. It didn't work. And I just ask, have you tried it recently? Because different things might work at different times. But if we don't have any energy, we're not going to try it. And we're not going to remember things that didn't work in the past. Our brain is going to save time and say, just don't do. And that doesn't get us joy either. We don't get to that place of contentment. And we certainly aren't getting towards that eudaimonic approach. Yeah. So positive self-care practices, again, you might have heard of all of these. I'm sure you guys have, but we'll just take a moment and review them anyway, because they're really good. And every now and then a reminder isn't that bad. Yeah. So the first one is just remembering, if you want to change a habit, it's going to be hard. If you're used to going home and sitting down and popping open a beer and watching TV, saying, actually, I'm just going to do a bubble bath or do something different or listen to a podcast is nowhere near as exciting. Yeah, so it is difficult to change out of our habits and our grooves. But once we start, we take 3 days to really put ourselves in a different direction for a new habit, 3 weeks to get it in place, and 3 months to actually start seeing new neural connections. So it's not quick, but once we do it, we have a better chance of it stabilizing and keeping into our lives in a nice way. So the first one that we discuss when we have stress, anything that's not going well, we're unable to work in the moment, is progressive muscle relaxation. And I'll just invite everybody, you can do it with me or not, but we really want to think about everything that I mentioned before. The body is full of chemicals when we do that. It's cortisol, vasopressin, corticosteroids. They're all kinds of adrenaline, helpful things if you need to run a mile away from a dinosaur or chase some piece of food for dinner. But it's very, very useless when you're sitting in a room with a 16-year-old trying to teach them English. Yeah. So if we can just remember, you can even just do your forehead and your eyes, squeezing them tight and opening them up. What we do when we do this is we let go of the muscles. So if we squeeze it tight, we do a reset. Some people might not want to do that directly in front of other people, so you might need to go somewhere else, but then cheeks. Yeah, doing a big grin or a big yawn really helps. And those shoulders, just bring them right up tense as you can, and then, let them down. Okay, and doing that, we also give a chemical message back to our brain. I'm not holding this anymore. Okay, and the arms as well. You can hold them stiff, straight down by your side, whichever, but it's the stiffening of the muscles and the letting go that releases the tension, just like a rubber band. Okay, the lower back and the legs, it's usually good to try and push your toes into the ground and then let go again. Okay, it's very quick. We did it just there, if you were doing it with me, in less than 45 seconds. So it doesn't take much, but the release that it gives your body and your brain is amazing. Yeah. Now, the other one, this takes a bit longer. We ask people doing guided imagery to find a script that works for them. So we can do it as a recording. We can find them online, YouTube, everywhere. But lots of people create their own. So this one is about body awareness, just as a sample. So I might read this to someone I'm working with. But what we would really want you to do in a guided imagery is create your own world. So we walk through, what would a nice place look like? Some people say a beach or a mountains. I've had people tell me cotton candy land. And I was like, that sounds awesome. I want to be there with you. And when we just go through our senses, what's there, right? What do I see? What do I smell? What do I hear? What do I taste? What do I feel? Okay. And then also think about, what season is it? What else is going on in this world? What's the temperature? Are there any other people or animals or buildings or nothing at all? And it's a really nice place to create. It doesn't take very long, about a minute, if you just go through everything I've mentioned, and you can create one that's safe to go to and call it your cozy corner. You know, if you just close your eyes on the MTR, nice deep breath, it's a really great place to go. Nobody knows where you are, but you're there and it's okay. Also, when we have stressful moments, you can take yourself to these places, or just have one recorded and listen to it on your phone. Again, it doesn't need to be more than 30 seconds to have a massive effect on your body. Okay. And then coping strategies, right? The people who usually get us overwhelmed, we have to think of other strategies that just get us away. No, we can't escape. We can't just run, but we can supercharge ourselves to do something different. Yeah. That relaxation and mindfulness is one of our best ways. Now, most people think, why would I slow down to go faster away from everything? But it's taking that moment to really, really calm your body down. And we're actually going to do a quick one in just a moment and think, how can I get my heart rate down? Okay, so that's the other one that we're going to do. And it's such a good indicator that we don't think of mindfulness as being about blanking out our brain, letting go of everything. It's more about, how can I just have present moment awareness? And when we do that, our body actually does a lovely relaxation all by itself. Yeah. So we take small items and then just go with them sensorily. Okay. So we'll do that together in a minute. Yeah. But we've got to remember, the goal always is to try and go for that blue zone area. Okay. But it's not happy. This is not realistic. Contentment. Remember, that middle ground is very hard to get to, but it's homeostasis. And we've got to make sure that, well, we've got dopamine and serotonin going. If we can get the blood flow to the prefrontal cortex, we know that we're going to be being in our best self and we're managing stress more. But we also need to be aware that the red zone is going to come up lots of times during the day. As I said, a surprise email, a colleague, a child saying something surprising. We really have to be aware that it's going to go up quickly. And our biggest task is not to stop it, but to work better at the recovery. How can we get back into the blue zone effectively and efficiently? Because then this guy switches back on, and then we're really actually putting out fires in a much more realistic way, if you want to think of it that way. But as I said, maintaining the whole, doing these things on a regular basis, taking little moments to just reorient ourselves, taking 5 minutes out to take a walk around the block. These are your winning pieces, little and often. That is actually the secret to keeping in that blue zone. Right. Now we have to remember as well, laughter is great. Okay. We really want to be able to make sure that we got things in our life that are good. I have a whole series of cute kitten and cute puppy videos that I look to regularly. Actually, I have a whole selection of baby animal pictures because they just feel good. It doesn't take much, and your brain will release all of these chemicals really, really quickly. Some people like to watch old recordings of comedians on YouTube. You can find all kinds of ways, memes that make you giggle to yourself, just something that makes you feel good, putting that in your day as well. I save it on my screensaver. So I have, and I can just show you now, I think, whoops, let me just pull it up. And of course, it's not just going to cooperate like that, is it? I told you, I'm not a tech expert. Bear with me one second. So there we go. I don't know if you can see my little puppy there, right? So that's my little piece of joy. I just get so excited every day. And that little puppy comes up to me every day and says, hi, when I come home. Same thing. Hi. Every time I look at that, I'm like, I'm going to be there in a couple of hours. Nice. So it doesn't take much. Special Things as a screensaver or anywhere, give you those chemicals. Easy win, right? Now, this is what most people think, though. The ability to observe without evaluating is the highest form of intelligence. Not true. Okay. We judge automatically. It's what our brains do. We have to decide if something is safe or not. Is it the way that we're going to be there? And I think this was originally meant to talk about that mindfulness state. But all we want to do is be able to say, that happened. Now, if we're at school, we can't. We have to be able to make quick, constructive, active, proactive ways of getting in the world. But we know that there's easy ways to do it. So these are some of our tools for working with it. Maintaining our own balance, the eye contact, speaking with people with an active voice and constructive voice is that best way. And we know that that gives us those positive chemicals. Everything that we're getting out and putting out is in the top chart, okay? What we know that we tend to do when we're overwhelmed is we go into that turning the focus inward. Oh, I feel so bad. I have to do this again. We ignore the speaker. Maybe we're not wanting to deal with it, so we'll avoid taking action on it. We know that we do this all the time. So being in the act of that top corner there, even when we don't feel like it, actually gives you the right chemicals, though. So it keeps you in that more positive state where we're not swimming in our soup of the negative stuff. And this is it. Those are able who think they are is ever so true. If you think that you can find a positive in it, you will. If you think that you can manage it, you will. And this is all our day is at work. It's about being with other people. Yeah, we have tasks to do for sure, but especially in the teaching world, being able to manage the chemicals is it. We can't manage the issuance. We can manage the recovery. Okay, so that is self-belief, and you guys know about this all the time. We have good old Bandura said that we've got to be able to go by what our body tells us, and that orange key down there, the physiological feedback, is one of our biggest teachers. Now, when we're dealing with stress and management, we ignore it. We ignore our body, as I said, that to that burnout stage, to where we're just passing out or we're self-medicating. But we do have to go to that other part, the purple cog on the other side, which says self-evaluation. We really have to go here more regularly. This actually improves self-belief. But what we end up doing is looking at how we're working with others, believe in ourselves. We look at how others act towards us, and we misinterpret things, or we think we're awesome, right? So every now and then we get this when we're self-reflecting. We're thinking, I've got this. I'm managing this. Nobody can see my stress. I'm feeling so good. Well, we want to, right? Nothing wrong with that. But oftentimes we're not. You know, people say, oh, you've got dark circles under your eyes, Dr. Scarlett. And I think, no, I don't. I just put on makeup. Yeah, I've covered it up. I've managed it effectively. No, I haven't. If you're tired, people know it. They can see it, and they are responding to it as well. Yeah, but this is what I was talking about before. Our lovely Professor Seligman, he had this Perma model, and he said, you know, it isn't just one thing. It's balancing a lot of these things together. Those emotions that we have, are we getting enough good ones? Are we making sure we're looking at our puppy pictures and our kitten videos, or whatever else floats your boat? Are we making sure the relationships that are there, good or bad, that we're trying to find that positive way to engage and find it? Are we actually clocking our own accomplishments well enough? Are we looking at the good things that we're doing in life, or are we just noticing all the bits we didn't finish? We really have to note where we're putting that intention. Yeah, so that mindfulness plays a big part there. And engagement. You know, really enjoying it. When you get into that job, does it give you a sense of, yeah, I'm in it? That sort of flow that that we hear everyone talk about. And then meaning, This is the bigger piece. If you don't want to be a teacher forever, that's fine. But meaning can be anything, like just handing out water at a race, or helping the children do their homework, or even just making sure, no, I like my knitting. It's pretty meaningful to me. Can be anything. But making sure we've got a little bit more balance in there in all these areas, really great way. Okay, meaningful and fulfilling life. Wong's Pure Model also gave us another one to think about. We've got to have a goal. We have to understand ourselves, take responsibility, and enjoy that process. So we're still linking back to those 6 first factors. We don't really go far off of it. So we're pretty sure when all of these researchers have done this, they've been doing it over a long time, and that these are cognitive states, okay? And we have to marry it up with everything else. Even Snyder, he gave us the psychology of hope. And he said there's lots of ways to get there, but we have to have something that we're striving towards, a sense of agency, and a way to get there. So this keeps repeating. Even Deci and Ryan said, in order to achieve something and feel good, now they weren't talking about the chemicals necessarily, but it was about the I. I've got to have the autonomy, I have to feel competent, and I have to feel related to other people. So it doesn't matter what you're doing, managing the chemicals is the only thing that gets you all of these in there, because you can't be competent if this guy is switched off. You don't have autonomy if you're in an anxious state the whole time, and we're not related to other people when we're avoiding. So all of it comes back to the same story again and again. Intrinsic motivation, where I am deciding to do this, versus extrinsic motivation, what I'm told to do. Okay, it's part of your job, it's got to happen. So this exists on a continuum. And that pure intrinsic motivation, we don't get to do as often as we want, but those would be your hobbies. Okay, there's interest, the enjoyment where you're inherently satisfied. We can't do that all the time, but we do have to find a way to get it into our life. Yeah. So intrinsically motivated, yep, that's it. Just doing it for the pure pleasure of discovery. Kids do this all the time. And it's funny, as our brain starts sealing up, we lose it, we forget how to do it. So sometimes we do have to stop the world and say, what would I like to do? And what we do as adults is we think that we should develop stable patterns in everything, and we shouldn't be trying stuff anymore. We should be dedicated. But what we forget is that for fun, which must stay in your life 30 minutes a day, prescriptive, you have to be intrinsically motivated to do it. Curiosity, and it could be a crossword puzzle, it could be knitting, it could be just looking for new kitten memes. It can be anything, but something that you want to do, and it doesn't have to have direction. This is another key piece that is the only way we really get back into finding out what intrinsically motivates us. And when we feel that, again, all the good chemicals come out. Okay, so again, small things, you can be punctuating your whole day with these little 3 to 5 minute points and feel great by the end of it. Yeah, recovering constantly. And of course, as teachers, you're all going to be aware of that growth mindset. But we really do have to follow that we believe effort, yeah, is the way we get somewhere. Mistakes are going to happen, okay? And that challenges are part of it. We're going to get the chemicals, do something good with them, right? So we have to go through all that discomfort zone and get into the comfort zone. Kolb tells us we got to do it. All right, so this is true. We have to get into the chemical soup in order to get to the other side, where we do get that reward sense, where we do feel engaged, where we get the sense of agency. And we can't do it often enough because we do feel stress. We feel not well sometimes, right? So anytime we are, step back. Remember, these are all theories that you've got. I know you guys have got, but we do have to touch on them. They still give you lots of good information, because we know everyone thinks it just happens. I just go to the gym and then I turn into a perfect being. Yep, not. The real thing is it's a lot of work, which is usually what puts me off going to the gym. But yeah, there you go. So that means I need more grit. Right now, this is Amy. She said we have all this stuff going on, and this is a little less important here, but we need to remember the grit for us. When we're looking after our mental health and our mental well-being, we have to have a bit more grit. We have to remember that this is important. It is doable, and it's little pieces, often looking for overall balance. Yeah. So what are these thematic practices we're going to try? Get ready, right? Body scan, you've all heard of this, where we might be thinking from our toe all the way up, and we just stop for a minute and see what's happening. Resting awareness, relaxation, where we sit still and just see what's happening in our body. Just notice wherever our brain notices first. But anytime we have the thoughts come in, we let go. Self-compassion, loving kindness, meditations. These are wonderful ways to stop for a second. Visualizations, as I said, something positive, and creating physical sensations around it. Wonderful. Reflection-based meditation, perhaps gratitude moment. Think of one thing that we're happy for every day. A sound bath, you can go to those gongs or singing bowls. People find lots of ways of doing it. Now, a lot of these feel big, and most people tell you the body scan to mean anything, you need 45 minutes. I don't have 45 minutes to spare. You don't, you need 1 minute. That's it. Okay, so we're going to practice now. Looking at what Peter Levine said, that when we focus on our body, again, the chemicals calm down, our heart calms down, the vagus nerve calms down. There's a lot of ways that we can manage that stress. When we can't manage it in the outside world, we need to find the way to get that intrinsic motivation, to find the balance. And it's just simple methods. There's nothing too complicated. Yeah. So we'll just take a minute here. We won't take 10 minutes. I'm not going to use that. If you have headphones on already, that's great. I hope you're in a private and quiet place, but we don't need anything else to do this. Okay. So we're just going to take a minute and look at this lovely water bubbling up on the shore. And just imagine the last time you might have been at the beach, and just think about what it smelled like. Yeah. Think if there was any texture that you liked or disliked. It's okay. And just think about what season it was, what time of day. This one looks like a sunset, but you might have been there when it was blaring hot noon, high noon sun, and it felt amazing. Yeah, sitting on the beach. Maybe you went for a swim. Just try and bring to mind the last time you were there and go through that little catalog of your senses. What did you see? What did you feel? Are you one of those people that digs your toes into the sand? You're one of those people that wears shoes on the beach because you don't like the sand? Were you looking after yourself and being safe? It's all positive. That's it. And in Hong Kong, we go to beaches lots of the time. Some people don't like them at all. But we just want to keep in mind all the good things about that experience. And just take a deep breath in through the nose. Hold it for a moment. And let it out. Just notice what's happening in your body now. Has anything changed? Just by taking a minute to just focus, just on a picture. We're not doing anything really crazy here. Just on that picture. Now, I'm going to try and add some sound to it quickly and see if we can enrich the experience. The water's cool, lapping over your feet. Nice deep breath. All the other thoughts can come and go. Just stay in the water for a second. Nice and cool. So hopefully that gives you a nice example of something that you could try for yourself. You might try a mountain. You might try a seashore. You might try a field. You can find sounds for any of this stuff. And the other thing to make it real, as they always make candles that smell like something. So you can have a nice sniff. If you've been to the beach, you could get some sand. So if we go through all of our senses and really give ourselves a nice experience, you'll be surprised all the chemicals you start putting out that feel great. And it doesn't take long. A minute, 30 seconds. If that's all you've got it. But you've just given yourself the most amazing natural boost ever. And it's that easy. Yeah. So what I've asked you to do at the beginning was download one of the two of these for all those who could join us a little bit earlier. If you haven't, have a look now, the stress guide or the stress scan guide. And what we'll do after that nice, relaxing mini meditation, and that is a meditation, by the way, just looking at something and focusing on it and letting your mind wander is, yeah. And you bring it up. Now, I did one earlier. Okay, so I'm just going to show you this one. Stress scan. Okay, and the stress guide. So I'm hoping everybody's got either a picture of it and you're starting to download it. It might take a minute. That's okay. I'm going to go forward here. And we're just going to remember that, as we said before, we're stressed and we don't stop. Okay, we can override our brain for a long time until it shuts us down, basically, because we can keep sending out those chemicals saying, I need to go. And our body, being dutiful, will go. Okay, we can't stop, though. We have to keep going. We have this list of things to do. That's it. But, we need to remind ourselves every now and then to do it. So these apps actually give us that. And most of these, you can set a reminder to take your pulse rate or your heart rate. There's lots of different versions. These are two easy ones to use. But if you did that and you listen better to yourself just for that short space of time, it's just as good. You're putting a little chalk on the day and you're giving your body a chance to recover, right? So these are the main measurements that we use for stress: heart rate, blood pressure, self-report questionnaires, that subjective piece, what's my mood and energy, what Ed Diener said, we really need to ask you about it. And there's no really easy one way to put all these together scientifically, okay? But what we can do is think about heart rate variability. And you can see the spikes on the top there. They're about a second apiece, okay? And we can see when there's that high variability there, 93 seconds all the way up to 1.3 seconds, we have some changes going on. Okay, so we can see that low HRV, that fight or flight, we're easily exhausted, low adaptability, and decreased cognition. And we would think that having that gap of 1 second regularly between there is good, but that's what our body does for us. It helps us stay on. But what really happens is when we've got that high variability from 0.93 to 1.3, our body is doing more accurate responding to the world, right? So this is actually improved performance. We're better able to adapt because the heart is moving around a bit. It says, oh, I need to move here. Oh, I don't need to move so much here. And that, believe it or not, is a slightly better version. So what we're going to do now is check ours. Okay, I'm not going to ask you about it, but we're going to pull out that side that says if we've got low HRV, okay, there's not much variability, we're in dominant overdrive. We might be in danger of being, worn down. And it's our sympathetic nervous system that's driving it. But if you've got that high HRV, that lots of variation between the peaks, our parasympathetic nervous is in there. A sympathetic nervous system is going on. It's helping us a bit more, and it's helping us to get chilled. It's letting us go down to that resting state and then raising us up when we need it. So we want to see variability, basically. Yeah. So let's check out your stress levels. Everyone ready? Hopefully that's also given you enough extra time to download that app. And now we can have a look at it. So this is the first one, stress guide. And what it does is you have to get your phone out and you have to be able to get your finger over both the light and the camera. Now mine is in a case, so it's quite hard, but what you have to do is kind of push it in. All right. So once you've started it, right, you just press the button. Where is it? It's not on this one. This is just a screenshot. Sorry. So what we have here, I'll show you the live one. Hold on. Let me get this one. Okay. Let me go back now. Finished. Okay. So it'll give you that screen when you're starting out, right? And it'll say, put your finger on. So put your finger on and then press start measurement. Now you want to be sure that you're nice and still for a second. Okay. Detecting your finger on the camera and the flash. You should see that little swirling around. And once it's detected it and it feels that it's got a really good measure of it, it's going to show you that breathe in and breathe out. You'll get that little pulse rate at the top. And then you should be able to start seeing that heart rhythm developing at the bottom. So hopefully you're all doing that now. And let's see how you go. It's about a minute. Yeah, and then you'll get a screen that looks like that in the end. So it's down that center panel there. Stress level, healthy current status. Great, you're doing good. Or maybe it'll show something that's not so good, right? And recovery ability, this is what I was talking about before. So this is the best thing that we can do, as maintaining the whole means managing the stress level over time. And then the recovery ability is that heart rate variability. It means that I can respond easily to the stressor. Breathe, do progressive muscle relaxation, take myself away for a minute, or just find something concrete to take my senses away for a second, and then I can come back quickly into a normal heart rate. Okay, so that variability is that bit that we're looking for. Now, as I said, there's a few different ones, and they all give you really good information. Okay, we get blood oxygen level, but for the most part, looking at the HRV is a really good indicator of whether you're in stress or whether you are in a level of ability to fluctuate. So we want to see variability. And this is a scan of the other one, the stress scan, in case you've done that. I just want to show everyone else that one. Let me go back to that. There's one I made earlier. Yeah. And so I had that one earlier. So you come up with that screen on the right, that green screen, and it gives you lots of really great data. So again, it's about how to use it. Lots of people download these. They take one measurement and they go, yep, that's my heart. So we just want to make sure, what can you do? How can you make sure that you set a timer? Could you check yourself every hour, regardless of what's happening, just for a week? Let's build some data on there. It's kind of a nice challenge. And I've worked with a few companies where they do this. They all share the data with each other, and then they're sort of looking who has the high peak moments, and then they go and help each other. Okay, I can see that you went up a bit there. Do you need someone to remind you? Can I do a little meditation with you? What can I do together? Have you got a rock to hold? Are you smelling something nice? Go to your beach. Getting each other's back is just as important, because when we give off those good helping vibes in that way and showing care, that compassion, believe it or not, it's just as good. You just gave yourself lots of good chemicals. So we can look at all kinds of positive ways of bringing it into our life. Yeah. So we have to think as well. And as I said, unlike your grandma, I couldn't leave the talk today without talking about your health and nutrition. Okay. So stress eating, we know that every now and then some people stress drink, stress eat, stress exercise. We have all kinds of ways that we know we are over the top. Okay. So some people are like, oh, I've noticed I've had 3 cookies this week, or I ate chocolate for breakfast 3 days in a row. I'm only eating hamburgers or donuts all throughout the day. Yeah. When it could look like that, but you know something, that's not so appealing for everybody. We know it's healthy. But if our sugar levels are going crazy, we're craving sugar. Okay. And that is one of the key factors that we have to look for, is that if our body is in a glucose dive, we're going to be craving more sugars. And that happens when we're too stressed, believe it or not. But these things on the right have loads of really healthy sugars, which satisfy it even more, because they're natural and they break down just as easily. And they actually fill you up. Yeah. We also have to think about the nutrients that we might not be getting in our bodies. And once these are depleted, we actually have some big problems going on. That magnesium is a big one. We can see that when we don't have that, we get actually get a lot of headaches and other things that can happen. But it is something that we need for our stress response. Now, we don't suggest that you just go out and get any of these supplements without checking with your doctor to make sure that you've got them. But we know that these are commonly depleted, and you don't want to just self supplement. We know that some people can take dangerous levels of these because it's on the shelf at the health food store. It must have been safe. We really need to get good guidance on this. Maybe a functional nutritionist, functional medicine practitioner, the people who can take a look at you, take a blood level if you need to, and then really check on it. But that zinc as well, we know that immune system down, the first thing doctors say is have a vitamin C and a zinc. Yeah, these two are there. A vitamin C as well is a great supporter of alertness. It helps our brain do lots of great stuff, and our brain absorbs extra if you have too much, by the way. B5 and B6, these Bs are great. We really need them for cognitive abilities, but especially for our word areas. And if we drink, it's one of the first ways that we know when people have drunk too much, because their word starts to go. A little area in our language center goes, and we saw this with Korsakoff syndrome, people who were just drinking vodka all the time started losing it first, but when they got huge doses of vitamin B, the language came back. So it was really interesting. And then we know vitamin D, the sunshine one, when we don't get out in the sun, we don't get enough, and we all put on sunscreen now because we know about all kinds of bad stuff, or we put on rashes, but we need to get a little bit every day. Yeah, it's only created in our skin when we're exposed to sunlight. You can take supplements in this. Your body produces it naturally. Take advantage. Costs a lot less too. So how do we really think about it? So this is the challenge I was talking about earlier. I've given you lots of thinking. We have lots of ways to say that health and well-being go hand in hand. Okay, our well-being is our health. We have to think of our body as a whole, and we have to think about how do we maintain balance in a world or in a job that demands everything from us, and when we're constantly getting spiked by people, by our task, or by our internal thoughts. I must do this. I must get it right. I cannot fail. I must be on time. All of these rigid rules. We've got to think of another way to live with them, right? And it doesn't mean letting ourselves down, letting others down. What it means is punctuating our day with small good things. Okay, the chemicals are free. They're already in your head. You can send them out at any time, right? The only way we can stop the chemicals that make us fight or flight is by managing them. Our brakes and our brain will do that for us, but we have to be aware of when we're overwhelmed. We don't want to wait till we're burnt out to get it. We want to be doing it a little bit every day. I've given you lots of little easy, low-hanging fruit there, a little meditation, a little music, maybe a picture, little video, have a little laugh with a friend, give out some loving kindness thoughts to other people. Just stop for a second, even if you just have a little smelly on your desk and you, okay, yeah, it's something that will change you. And it does matter. It really does. So that's the paradigm shift for you. And I'm looking forward to inviting all of your comments soon. And what are you going to take away? What are you going to try first? Little and often. Yeah, that's what we want to see. So working with these teams, peer-to-peer support, top ones. Family and friends are further away. If we've got them, we want to speak to them often. But we need to remember those ratios for life. How do we keep ourselves in a good corner where we're just getting a little bit of this? Checking in on it, whether you use Perma or any of the other models. How do we make sure we've got things in place so that we're in a growth mode, not continual forever growth, but that we're always thinking about what could we do next and what's our good thing that we can do with our body. Sleep, number one. Hydration, 2% dehydration, you're going to lose cognitive abilities, believe it or not. Very, very delicate system here, okay? But all that good nutrition, exercise, green, we know when we're looking at green, it changes our brain. Have a look at the field just outside your window. It'll still do something good. Find some enjoyable activities. As I said, 30 seconds filling in a few things on a Sudoku or anywhere else, looking at an online game, fine. Don't stay on it forever. And connectedness. Make sure that you even stop and just look at the people, even if they're antagonizing you. For a moment, you are connected, okay? And then watch out for those warning signs of stress. We just need to keep track of it, all right? So we'll go to questions. Let's see what else we've got, but I want to thank you for your time. And sort of, hopefully you're taking away some good stuff here. Now, let me just stop sharing for a moment and pull that back up. And that's a lot from me, but I really want to hear about you guys. So are there questions in the chat? No questions in the chat. That's all right. Yeah. Let me get that down. Let me just open it up. Please reach out, ask any questions you've got. Not sure how to do something. It's kind of weird. It's all good. Every question's a good one.
I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to say that I've never heard of the stress measurement apps. And apparently my stress index is low, so I'm happy. But it's the first time trying it out, so I definitely will experiment with it a little bit. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Adopting even one thing can change it. You don't have to do it forever, but doing it, once a week, a nice thing to get in there. Yeah. Just for a week. Just take a dip into your own physiology. It's not going to hurt you, I promise. And you might even have a nice result. Thank you, Mariana, for sharing that. Who else would like to share something or a thought or reflection or question? sent a video of the recording. I believe it's okay.
Yes,
I think
we'll share the video and also part of the PowerPoint to everyone who attended the event today.
definitely.
Any other comments or your thoughts that you want to share with everyone?
You're welcome, Sharmini. Thank you. Thank you for coming. It's
Yeah.
your health. I do care. I don't know you all, but I do care. Yes.
Oh,
this is Lauren.
There's a hand raised.
Absolutely. Please, fire away. I don't hear you yet. Are you there?
I see that you unmute yourself, but
Yeah.
we cannot hear you.
And sometimes you have to go down to that microphone and check get the little up arrow and check if you're connected. Or do you want to type it in the chat?
Or sometimes people use that hand sign to say goodbye.
Looks like that might have been it. Thank you. Absolutely.
Thank you and goodbye.
Just a thanks. Unmuted for a second there, but yeah, no problem.
Yeah. And just to follow up on Mariana, I'm glad that I am within the normal stress level after testing. So I'm glad that I'm actually quite chill during your presentation and doing those breathing exercise.
Well, that's it. The simple things, and it's one way to do it. If you're having like an argument with someone, just say, "Excuse me, I'll be right back." Yes, take your stress measurement and go, okay. You'll reset, believe it or not. Yeah. Of course, you can't do that with anyone just in their face, but it does take time to get used to saying, wait a minute, I'm overwhelmed. I need to keep talking to this person, but I'm going to do something in this moment. I'm going to remind myself to take a nice deep breath. Okay. Because when you do that, when you're stressed, you breathe short breathing, your heart sends out more chemicals. Your hearing shuts down a bit. Okay. Your vision goes narrow. This guy shuts off. And ironically, if you just take a deep breath and you push oxygen all the way down, diaphragmatic breathing, we call it, it's the secret cue to your brain that I'm safe, I'm not running, I'm not fighting, and it'll stop giving you all those chemicals. So it's an easy, invisible trick to reset yourself if you're really overwhelmed. Just.
I believe there's a question from Haley.
Cool.
Are there any free apps that you recommend for promoting positive well-being?
Oh, there's tons out there, and I actually promote healthy exploration of them because I have people I work with every week who find new stuff. And as I said, mine right now are just about trying to take normal measurements, and that's just get an accurate reading of ourself. Okay. Now what they have is the measurement, as I mentioned, the Ed Diener, the subjective questionnaires. There's a bunch of those, and I can send one of those out. So you can check in on yourself and score yourself. Can do that. But the apps now mostly are mood trackers. So you'll go in and they will give you an ability to do the smiley face or a frowny face or something, and you just do a little bit each day, and then you track it over time. And some of them have sort of hormone measurements for you and lots of different pieces that they put in. And some of them you can actually diarize, but there's literally hundreds. We used to have on our webpage a nice selection, and we just had to take it down because they changed so often. And different people needed different ones, but I can probably find the list that we used and suggest some of those.
Or I can get the list off you and I can email at once to everyone, including the recording video of today.
Yeah. And then the well-being generally, the WHO, QOL, quality of life, an easy one. It's free, it's online. We do this with teams so that we just go in and we say, everyone take a temperature check today. Yeah. We really need everyone to just say, where are you right now? It's not that we can do anything about it, but if we understand better where people are, we know where we need to help them get to. So at least puts you in a safer place. Yeah. Well, great. I love this. People really wanting to have some information to help themselves. Yay. This is great. Are there any others? I'm just going to look at my first time hearing about Perma and Pure. Awesome. This is what I mean. There's some people aren't exposed to it. That's okay. They're all thinking tools. As I said, this is people think I just do this and I get it right and then I feel good, right? And I go, no, it's not quite work like that. But if you manage it and you treat it as a flexible way of thinking about, am I getting enough from myself? It's okay. Now, it can't be rigid either. We do have periods of time where our work is intense. Okay, but we also let ourselves know, I'm going to plan a reward at the end of this. I am going to give myself this one day a hike, or I'm going to the beach, or I'm going to do some wakeboarding, or I'm going to go shopping for flowers. Give yourself a reward, and building these in will keep the dopamine and oxytocin going while you're having a stressful time. So, pacing it in the future as well is really helpful. Not just managing the now, because we can't fix the past by thinking about it in the present, but we can make the future more pleasant. So we can make our present more pleasant by thinking about the future sometimes. Yeah, we really can. Cool.
Someone make a comment about reading a book when a character gets angry and tells herself to breathe 3 times. Have you ever tried that, Dr. Scarlett?
Absolutely, yes. We do suggest that deep breath. Another easy one, 2 easy ones actually, that we do with everyone from 3 years old upwards. We call it 5 fingers breathing. Okay, because we have 2 things. 1, it's an easy measure for in and out. And 2, our hands, when we do self-contact, it is hugely grounding. Okay, so what we need to do is up, nice and slow, in on the up of the finger, and down and up. Okay, so we do that to 5, and it's really, really relaxing. And so when I've got children who are overwhelmed, I'll say, give me your hand. I'm going to trace your hand. And then, they get over the tears or whatever. And it's really sweet. But by the end of it, if we do it super slow, they'll really calm down. Yeah. Now the other one is box breathing. Again, we use it on our hands. So we draw a box. The up is in breath, over, hold, down is out breath, and over is hold. And we just do that 3 times. Very easy, but again, self-stimulation is really nice. It gives our brain feedback because we have to get back in touch with our being, right? So we get in touch 2 ways. We tell our brain, I'm not running, I'm not fighting, and we give some really nice human contact. Yeah. So these are easy wins. Yeah, but the breathing 3 times, we suggest, not too much and only through the nose. If you breathe through your mouth deeply, you risk hyperventilating yourself. Okay, because I also teach people how to hyperventilate themselves. So we mimic a panic attack so that they know. So we teach them how to recover from it. And it's breathing deeply through the mouth. It's like, don't do that. Just through the nose and out through the mouth. Yeah. But the 3 times, it's a charm too, Even if you can count to 3 and you can re-regulate, it's great. But if you're really upset, 20 minutes minimum for those chemicals to really, they've stopped issuing when you breathe, but in order for them to really not be giving you spikes anymore, 20 minutes. I don't have 20 minutes 10 times a day, none of us do. So it's about do the best, find the middle ground for you. Yeah. Lots of self-soothing. Right? I've got my favorite things around me. I've got a rock and I hold it and it's nice and cool and I can cool it down. Because when we get something called the dive reflex, we do this with individuals who get overwhelmed too easily, put cold water on the face, and it's another reset for the physiological system. A rock that's been sitting in a nice air-conditioned office all day, it's just as cold. it's sends you back there. We also suggest squishies. I have a squishy sushi kitty, right? This is great. It's one of those that's the slow riser. Yeah. Other people might need thick proprioceptive stuff. Get one, or plushies. I've got my favorite friend Woodstock here, and just touching something soft. Okay, it's really nice. We don't need much. We just need it. Figure out what works for you and then do it. And as I said before, some people keep a little rock in their pocket, works charms. But the other thing is some people need texture. So you can see this little guy has some texture in it. And so sometimes I just need to do that, and it's very calming. Right? Nobody knows what I'm doing. If it's in my pocket, it's even more invisible. Right? So
very good suggestion.
Really small things. Yeah.
I think we have another question. Is there anything I can do other than meditation?
Yes, tons of great things you can do other than medication, but it depends on the situation. Okay. Some need medication because there is a natural imbalance in the chemicals. All right. So we have to go to the psychiatrist or your GP and have them give you the best checkup for that. Because if our neurochemicals, our own innate neurochemicals are imbalanced, it's just like having heart disease or other things. Or if you have diabetes or other things, the medication management helps so much. And we have unnecessary, suffering going on without it. It's better off to say that this is it. I have to embrace my relationship with this chemical that helps me, right? But otherwise, yes, there's loads of natural things. And the first thing that we suggest people do, activation. Anything that activates your body, walk. Okay, we know as little as 20 minutes walk a day changes obviously this motor cortex up here, but it gets everything flowing again. And depression, the key piece, believe it or not, is this guy isn't linked up. Now I have a picture. I'm going to roll away from the camera for 2 seconds and I'll just show you. It's really visible. Okay. Well, we can see prefrontal cortex. Can you see that, or is it too shiny? Oops. So chronic depression here. Whoop, where am I going? Prefrontal cortex, not connected. The red means it's lots of activity. And the healthy brain, right? I just got to do it here. Sorry. We can see there's lots of connections. So that's why we say exercise, breathe, eat right, get plenty of sleep. This guy starts firing off again by itself. Yeah. So what we want, and this is looking at the brain from the side. Okay. But we've got, actual measurable proof that depression creates its own chemical cascade and robs us of attention and cognition. So it's harder for us to pay attention to the good stuff, right? And your brain isn't switched on to do it. So you have to force yourself to do it. So we tell people, I want you to walk 20 minutes a day. I want you to shower. I want you to send me a WhatsApp of what you ate. And I want you to send me a picture of one good thing you saw outside of your house when you took that walk. We get really, really, really concrete. And all you need to do is that for a few weeks. And they're like, I don't feel better. I'm like, but you look better. You're going to have to judge me that I can see that you look different now. And they sit upright more, little things. So we're not always our best people to clock it. So with depression, we also say, have a buddy, have someone else who checks in with you. Okay. And the apps are nice ways to check it, but they might be false prophets. Okay. If you sort of put a smiley face every day, that actually makes some people's depression worse. So that's why I'm not a huge fan of doing them all the time. I think you have to keep it as they're all measures. They're run by algorithms. They're not humans. Check back with a human. I think it's a pretty safe thing. But the depression, the first thing is diet, sleep, exercise, connection with other humans, even if you don't feel like it. It's got to be prescriptive. And that will change the flow and it will change the chemical signature that you've got going on. And you have a better chance, if you have medication, of it doing the right thing. Okay. But a lot of people take medication and expect it to be the magic trick, and it's not. Okay, it's like training wheels for your brain. It makes it more likely that you can get into a good state. You still need to walk, eat well, sleep, and do the other stuff in order for it to kick back into action by itself, right? But if you're really so far down and your brain is not kicking back into action by itself, medication for a short term can be a really big help. We treat it like training wheels on a bicycle. It's just going to stabilize it for a little bit. It's not driving the pedals, though. It's not doing anything else. You still have to do the work. Does that make sense? Is that helpful for that question? Yeah, I hope. Lots of good stuff, right? And loving kindness meditation is a really nice one, where I have a good thought about someone that I know and I send it to them. I have a good thought about someone that I don't know and I send it to them. And then the kicker, I have a good thought for someone I'm really not happy with right now, and I'm going to send it to them anyway. And we just force ourselves to do little things sometimes, and it kind of tricks your brain into feeling okay again. Yeah. So it's a good practice. Yeah, and it's a great question. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. A lot of people don't ask that question. So it's really good. Thank you.